AskReddit by Lurker. Serious, people of Reddit that believe in the paranormal, ghosts, demons, angels, etc. What exactly happened to make you start believing? I once got a job to install a security system in an old house. The family that moved in, they had a little 5-year-old-ish boy. The boy was playing around by himself and he would sometimes ask random questions to what seemed like me. I answered one of his questions and I remember him telling me, "Oh sorry, I was just talking to my friend." The mother poked her head in and told me that he had found a new friend since they moved in. She then leaned in closer and jokingly said, "It's actually kind of creepy." Well, later that day the boy was in the kitchen playing and he was trying to reach a bag of chips on top of their fridge. I told him he should probably get down off the counter and I could get them down for him. He proceeds to get down and say, "Oh, my friend will get it." I just kind of shrugged it off and went back to working on running the cable through the wall. All of a sudden the bag of chips explodes on the floor. I turned around thinking the kid must have gotten back on the counter, but instead was on the floor picking up the chips. He gave me a look and said my friend accidentally knocked them off. I asked the boy where his friend was now and he points on top of the fridge and said he is right up there smiling at you. I never got such a freaky chill in my life. This is a little late, but the reason I believe in the supernatural is because of a traumatic experience as a kid. It was Easter Sunday, and my parents had set up an Easter egg hunt in the house for my brother and I. The eggs were all over the house, and my parents had put $1 coins in each of them, even in their bedroom, our bedrooms, bathrooms, etc. My parents put us on a timer, and said anything we don't get after 30 minutes they would take back. My brother and I decided when the timer started, we would book it back to their bedroom because it was the furthest room from us, and we would work our way back. So my parents started the timer, and we ran up to their bedroom and into their bathroom. We scoured the shower, under the sink, etc. Then I shut the door, because there's a shelf that's hidden behind it with it open. There was an egg there, and we grabbed it, but the door locked behind us. My brother and I immediately panicked and tried to open the door and bang on it and started yelling that our parents were cheating, and they had done it on purpose. We were just playing around, and it was all giggles and fun. Then the room started shaking. I immediately got freaked out. I was only 8/9 at the time. My brother was 5/6. He was just kind of confused on why it was shaking. The blinds in the bathroom were shaking, and the window started flashing with really bright lights outside. I thought we were going to die. I started screaming and crying immediately and banging on the door for real now. And finally, after about 10 seconds, my thoughts turned to keeping my brother safe. I opened up the cabinet door and started trying to shove him in there, because I remembered my teacher telling us about getting something to protect our heads if we had an earthquake. There was a really loud noise outside, like a lot of wind, and this really deep noise like something coming towards us. My brother was too big to get fully in the cabinet, but I sat down against it to try and hold the door shut, and I covered my head and closed my eyes and thought we were going to die. Then the bathroom door opened, and all of it stopped. My mom was looking super confused at me when I opened my eyes. I immediately jumped on her and hugged her and cried and yelling that it was an earthquake because that's the only explanation I had. My brother was stuck in the cabinet and she immediately freaked out and yelled for my dad, and he ran upstairs. My mom sat me on my bed and got my brother out, and he was crying and scared too. I told her what happened. She probably would have thought I was nuts, but my brother confirmed the lights, the shaking, and the scary ass noise. She and my dad had absolutely no explanation on this, and she said they didn't hear us or any noise. They only came upstairs because there was like 5 minutes left on the timer and they thought something was wrong if we were still upstairs looking for eggs. Or they would be nice and give us a hint to go downstairs. About a week later I told my neighbor about it. He was one of my favorite people because he was super funny and let us ride our bikes up his big driveway. When I told him about it, he immediately looked freaked out. He said that a long time ago, probably about 10 years ago, there was a bad plane crash in that neighborhood. I rode my bike back home and told my mom. She freaked out too, and looked it up, and it was true. Since then, I've believed in that shit. I thought that I struck and killed a girl that wasn't there. I was driving home late at night from a double shift, so admittedly I was tired. I had my radio blaring to keep awake. I was driving through the backwoods on a road that I had learned to take as the occasional shortcut. During the day the road was busy and congested, but at night it was always empty save for a stray deer or raccoon. I'm driving, jamming out, and admittedly speeding. I take a corner too quickly and there in front of me was a young girl about 19 or 20 with long dark hair wearing jeans and a light colored blouse. For a split second I saw her eyes reflected in the headlights, saw the look of shock and fear on her face, and I swerved hard off the road and into a ditch. There was no way that I didn't hit her. I jumped out of the car and started walking back to the spot I had last seen her and flagged down a passing car to tell them to call 911. This was in the days before everyone had cell phones. Cops came, EMT came and there was no one, no body, no girl, and I was given a sobriety test on the spot. I get home much later than I should have and my wife is waiting for me as I hadn't arrived on time. I'm shaken as I can still see the girl's face in my head, and I recount the story to my wife who goes white. She runs upstairs and grabs a yearbook and tells me to flip through the senior pictures. Page 3. There she is looking exactly as I had seen and described her. I ask my wife if she knows the girl, or if she has hers or her family's number. That's when my wife informs me that the girl died 3 years prior during a hit and run around that exact curve. I wasn't from the area. There were no ghost stories involving that road, and I had no way of knowing that the girl that I picked out of a lineup of seniors was already dead. To this day I still wonder what happened. Was I tired? Had I heard her name or seen her face on a memorial newscast or clipping and not registered it? Or had I actually encountered what to this very moment I still consider the most terrifying event in my life? As I honest too, God thought I was going to jail. I'm not 100% positive, but I can say this. I can still see her face lit up by my headlights clear as a goddamn bell. When I was a kid I had an imaginary friend called Mr. Johnson. I would talk to and play with him all day, and my parents mostly ignored it because it seemed harmless. Well, one day while my mom was out watering the yard, a neighbor walked by and started a conversation. He said he was surprised that she moved in there because it was supposedly haunted, and that the previous tenant had died in the house. His name was Mr. Johnson. After that my parents got really uncomfortable when I talked to my friend and I eventually stopped interacting with him. I also have a very vivid memory of talking to something on a curtain rod in the same house. I can't remember what we were talking about, only that its voice was kind of raspy and weird. When my dad came in and asked WTF I was doing, I remember the thing saying say I'm God. So I told my dad I was talking to God and thought the freaked out look he gave me was hilarious, even though I had no real understanding of what God was or why that was such a strange thing to say. My home we bought is haunted, and it's been interesting because I am an astrophysicist by trade, and it's been interesting to take what I know to be true in the universe and place that with what I and my family live with. All that being said, we adore her. I have probably the friendliest, most helpful ghost in the world. When we bought the house we knew it was funky. Even weirder is 3 days after we moved in I realized that I had seen this house before from the angle I was sitting in on the couch, in my dreams over various years. Anyways, the first thing we noticed was little things. If we left lights in they would switch off. You would hear the click of the switch. I heard walking around in my son's room one day. Didn't think anything of it for a full 20 minutes and then realized frick, I'm home alone, like I heard his door open and walking around. Okay, spooky but harmless. If we lose something and we audibly say it's missing within around half a day, it will be found in plain sight on the table or couch. We always say thank you. Our cats will arch up and purr like someone is petting them. My daughter has been tucked in before. She thought it was me. Nope, we love her. The only thing we have issues with is no laundry machines past 9 PM. We have locking front loaders. Once they are started it's a bitch to get them open. If someone starts a late load you will come down to the door open and machine off. Only past 9. So now we just respect it. I don't know who she is, but this is her home too. We love her and say thank you and talk to her. All of us do. Guests have told us our house is haunted without us telling them. My all-time favorite story is I have a friend who doesn't believe in ghosts and she spent the whole day talking mad shit. She retires to one of the guest rooms and within 20 minutes she comes down sobbing and her ear is bright red. She was half asleep and she heard soft movements in the whack. Someone flicked her ear hard. She doesn't talk shit anymore or stay over. That's the only time our lady has been aggressive. But I'm glad she is here. She is our family now, as creepy and weird and dumb as that sounds. I don't really know where my beliefs stand, but when I was 16 my sister spent her last few days in the hospital. I remember her close friend came to pick me up from school to see my sister. At this time I didn't know how serious my sister's condition was, but before we went to the hospital we swung by my house so I could get some things to take. I felt uneasy and my instinct told me something was wrong, so I started to cry. Of course I knew my eyes would dry out since I wore contact lenses, so I took my eye drops with me. A few days passed. It happened. My family stayed at the hospital to take care of everything and another family friend took me home. In this time, the last person to be at my home was me. That was the day I grabbed my eye drops. On the way home, despite being the saddest I'd been in my entire life, I remember my eyes becoming painfully dry due to the crying. Then, I remembered I left my eye drops on her bedside table. I remember very specifically, when I got home, the same bottle of eye drops, I only had one bottle, was on my desk in my bedroom. This was so shocking to me but somehow comforting because it gave me sense of possibility. I still can't explain it. Also, a bird just shit on my arm while I was typing this. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed another spooky installment. There will be more to come, so make sure to subscribe and smack that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Check out these other videos below. I'll catch you in the comments.